career services on your end? Is that what you see, Mary?
Yes, I do. Career
Perfect.
services. Yep.
Okay, fantastic. Because when you have two screens, sometimes you can't always see which one is showing on which part. So the first questions I want for you guys to answer for me is just show me, raise a hands. How many of you feel like you're confused about your career path or this pathway we have here at DMAC? Can I see a show of hands? How many of you feel like you're not 100% sure about this whole pathway thing?
Don't see any hands raised. Everybody
Don't
must
see
be
any
pretty
hands
sure.
raised. Yeah. Okay, so looking good so far. Okay, how about this second question? Do you feel like you really need a cover letter? Can I see a show of hands? How many of you feel like you really need that? Nobody's really sure about that one. Okay, how about the next one? Does your program require you to have an internship component? Nobody yet. Okay, well, we'll try the next one. Are you in search of an internship in the near future? No hands yet. Okay. How about, is your resume up to date? Yay, got a hand. Awesome. Okay, couple hands. Fantastic. How about the last question? Can I see a show of hands? Do you have a LinkedIn account? Couple hands there. Awesome. Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So this kind of gets me thinking about what it is I need to do to help you today. So the first thing, I know some of you said you weren't confused about your pathway, but I still feel like we want to talk about this a little bit. So right here is a picture of our 10 pathways that we have here at DMAC. Okay. So one of the beauties of pathways is that it allows us to say, I know I want to do something with healthcare, but I don't know exactly what it is I want to do. So if we can pick that, then what it allows us to do is take some of the courses that will help us cross over between them. So maybe I take an intro to biology and that covers several areas in the healthcare area. So that's one of the beauties of doing pathways. But sometimes some people are like, I'm not exactly sure what it is that I want to go into for a pathway. Excuse me. So the first thing I want you to know is there some things that you should consider when you're looking at a pathway. So you can see these green boxes here, your environment. Do you like people or things? What is it that you have for values? Like, do you value things that are careers that you get lots of interaction with diversity? Okay, so you need to ask yourself, what is exactly that I value? You also can look at like, how much responsibility do I have? Do I want independence? What are my strengths? What are things that interest me? How much money do I want to make? What's the size of businesses that I enjoy? And even you should think about geographic locations. So all of those pieces help you determine what is an area which a pathway is a good fit for me. And then within a pathway, what are careers that are good for me or programs for me to look into? So a lot of times when people think about pathways, they struggle with, am I in the right pathway? But sometimes I want students to take a step back and really ask themselves, if I pick this pathway, does it meet these things that are a good match for me? Okay, so if you further question those things, there are some resources that are out there that we could take a look at. So what I want to do next is I'm going to go ahead and switch over to these websites. But one of the things I'm going to do at the end is if you want me to email you this PowerPoint that has these linked, because I do have these linked in here, I will be happy to email that to you. Okay, but we're going to take a look at these career clusters. And one of the things that we've done within the career development department is Sarah wanted me to let you guys know that these career clusters match pretty closely to ours. And it has like some nice pieces in which we can look at. So we'll take a look at that in just a minute here. We're also going to look at the tools within the DMAC Career Exploration site. Indeed has a nice video for you to watch. Then there's also a nice career quiz that's out there. And then lastly, the good old Myers-Briggs career test is a test that you can do that matches your personality to your career. So one of the things I want us to do to take a look at then is to take a look at these websites, okay? So the first one here is this career services. And one of the really nice things about the career services website is that this is a piece that locks you together with our career department here at DMACC that's specific for DMACCs, and it's free as part of your tuition. But they do have some nice pieces where it talks about students and alumni. You can contact those career services. And as part of that, you can see that they have lots of different things within the careers. And here's that career exploration piece. So one of the things that we have, one, you can schedule an appointment, but we also have the Focus 2 careers. And what this does is it lets you go through a bunch of different like quizzes kind of. And my guess is some of you, when you were maybe in high school back in the day, you did some of those career things as maybe part of your career exploration in classes. But once you get a little older, things that you value and things that you have strengths and skills in, you start to take another look at. So I would encourage you, even if in the past you've done some of those assessments, I would encourage you to take a look at the Focus 2. Okay. The other piece is that this is this career one stop, and this is where we break these down into some career clusters. So it matches, like I said, with the pathways pretty closely. So if we were to go into the agriculture one of the nice things is it breaks it down for you, but it talks about little further down in here, would you like a career that does the following? And so it does a good job when I said to think about those boxes of green things like your values, your responsibilities. Do you want to work indoors or outdoors? This nice website kind of takes you into an idea. If you enter that career cluster, these are what kind of components you can expect. Okay. Another piece of that website from my presentation is that what is a career that you're going to love? So this is that how to choose that career path in 9 steps. So this is linked in the presentation that I'll share with you as well. But these are really easy to find. And sometimes just kind of watching a video might be a nice kind of connection for you. Another option you can do is this career quiz, which is part of Princeton Review. And it just takes you through a series of questions in which it says, you know, would I rather work with wildlife or would I rather be in public relations? And so it just kind of takes you through those ideas of would I rather this or would I rather that? That would be an option for something to get further into the weeds. And then the last piece is a nice little thing that's a nice career match. And what it does is it takes you through gender, which I find kind of interesting. But when I went through the practice quiz, it really had nothing to do with gender. So I don't know if they're asking you this question to maybe just collect some data, because the questions then take you into, you know, do you like exploring new ideas? And they're very simple yes or no questions. And then you answer, and then it says, you know, on a scale of 1 to 5, how do you like to make decisions? And so if you're one of the, it just takes you through. So I find it interesting because that doesn't really match gender. So I think they're doing that for data collection. But one of the things here, as we're looking at this, I'm going to switch back to my presentation here for you, is there's so much information out there that you can use to help you determine your path. So I'm going to go ahead and admit that student for you, Mary. So one
Thank you. Yep, I
Yep.
apologize.
Yep, no problem. It just popped up on my screen.
Okay, good.
One of the things here is though that so many people feel like when they decide to enter the career or enter a pathway, you can't move. And that's not true. And sometimes some pathways can cross over because maybe you were vet tech and then you decide that's not necessarily for me, but you've already kind of started some of that biology track things. So maybe moving into healthcare would be a good option for you because you like to help animals. Maybe now you like to help people. You have a helping nature. And so that's why doing some of these assessments can be very helpful to you because you start to see where those personalities match. The other piece to that is when you look at things like the Myers-Briggs test, being a personality test, the reason that's really important is because we know through research, if your personality matches your career, you're more likely to stay in that career. Now, you might change jobs, but not necessarily careers. So I always like to give students the idea of my career's in education, but I've had multiple jobs within the career of education. So that's why it's important to match your personality with your career. Okay. So taking a look, those are some things with paths. Okay. Before we go any further, hold on here. I just want to get my Zoom up. Looking at the chat, do we have any questions or anything so far? Any
No
questions?
questions so far.
No questions so
But
far.
yeah, just a reminder,
Okay.
feel free to pop those. You can either, I don't know, chime in, I guess,
Yep,
right?
absolutely. Fantastic.
or-
Well, I know sometimes when I switch my screens, it loses my chat. So I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody.
Yep.
Okay.
Or if you want to type it in there, I'll make sure that Christina sees your chat. So feel free, either one.
Fantastic. Okay, so now I want to move into the next component of why should we get an internship? Why would I even, if I don't have to do it, because several of you mentioned you didn't have to do it as part of your program. Why would you want to do it? Well, here's some little pieces of information. Doing an internship reinforces your skills and abilities. So one of the things we find is even though maybe I've sat in a classroom and I've learned about accounting, do I really feel like I'm good at accounting or I'm proficient at it? Well, when you get into an internship, you actually get to reinforce those skills and use those things you've learned. And now kind of going clockwise, it also allows us to expand our resumes. So it's actually something we can put on our resume that's real experience in that field that we've studied. It also helps us build our network. And what I mean by that is we get to talk to people who do that job every day. And people maybe that even if you're an entry level position, they're at a higher level position, you build that network and say, oh, hey, what is it like every day to be the program chair? Or what's it like every day to be the team lead? And the other thing it also does for us is it validates that career path. Oh, hey, I'm doing my internship at this whole idea of marketing. But now that I'm here, I see there's lots of different ways I can go within marketing. So it kind of validates that career path and helps us pick those different jobs and careers. The other piece is looking at the next box over is it helps us meet a mentor. Maybe we find somebody that has the job that one day we really want. Meeting that mentor, we can ask them questions, and maybe when our internship is over, they're a person we can reach out to that can help us decide, hey, should I continue on after DMAC? Should I maybe consider working and going to school part-time? It's a great person that becomes that kind of big brother, big sister to you. Okay. The other thing internships can do for you is it really helps you get interview material. And what I mean by that is so many times when people interview, they're going to say, tell me why I should hire you. And yeah, you might have a great answer for all the skills you have. But if you can say, well, one of the reasons you might want to hire me is when I was doing my internship at DMAC, I discovered that I'm really talented with marketing materials. It gives you actual information that you can talk about in real examples, not just things you can say, well, I feel comfortable with that. You can actually say, I did that. It also gives you a snapshot of the industry. You get to see what does it really look like to do that job, as well as kind of going back to the mentor pieces and the resume. You can get an idea if I'm going to enter this industry, what does it look like to really get a job in this industry? We talk about resumes, but if you look at education, they say instead of resumes, you really should do vignettes. Okay, what vignettes are just like little different angle of a resume, just different kind of name for it. So it's really important that you think about that snapshot of an industry not only kind of gives you an idea of what the job looks like, but it also could give you an idea of how to get that job. Okay. And then lastly, it could be the potential for a first job. So I always feel like that's a bonus. Okay. So then if we take a look at why we should do that, how do we even find these things, Chris? I'm looking at this and this sounds wonderful, but what do I do? So this 9 steps for finding the best ways for an internship was taken from Indeed.com. Okay. So one of the things that they say is you first should determine those career goals and interests. Well, what I want to do next is break these down to help you understand more what they mean. But they're saying, you want to define your requirements, and I kind of consolidate some of these. Start searching early, reach out for specific companies, search online, use your school and your local career services, attend career fairs, reach out to your network, and use social media. Okay. When I read these, I don't know about you guys, but it sure sounds kind of overwhelming. Okay. Because you're like, that's a lot of stuff, and I'm supposed to be doing my homework. And that's absolutely true. But here's what I can tell you, if you can do homework and you can couple it with experience, you become an excellent future candidate for me. So, how do I move about these steps? Well, first of all, let's take a look at determining those career goals and requirements. Here's some things I want you to think about as you're starting to work on these internships. Do I need a paid position versus unpaid? Now, sometimes that couples with those program requirements. So, some program requirements say they can't be a paid position because you're going to get credit for it. Okay. Depending on what your program is. So, for example, like I know in the business department, they have a paid position requirement, but as part of that, you also get credit, but the partnership has to be different. So if you're doing it as part of your actual program, you need to find out if that program lets you have a paid position or not. If you are doing this strictly on your own for your own well-being, if you can get a paid internship, I say go for it. Okay. But really take a look at the other piece is if you do a paid position and those employers are looking to hire you, they typically want you to work a certain number of hours. Okay. So that needs to be considered as well. Looking at some of those other bullet points, you need to really consider like what is the transportation it's going to take to get there? Where I'm currently living, my housing situation, does it allow me to get to where I need to be? Okay. You also need to think about what are places you'd like to really learn more about. Maybe you've always wanted to see what would it be like to work at Principal. It would be a great opportunity to do an internship at Principal. It also allows you to see what the company culture is like. You may find out once you got to whatever your company is, this company is a company that's really like micromanaged, and the leadership here really likes to make sure they have their hands on a little bit of everything. You might not like that, and so you get an idea, this isn't really the kind of business I want, or I don't really want a position that has a lot of like oversight. But maybe it's the other end, and you find out if you do this job you're really on your own, and you might be like, you know what? Early on in my career, I don't want a job where I'm all my own. I want somebody to kind of help me out. Maybe you find out they have a great mentorship program within their company. Maybe you like that culture. Okay. So that's what's really kind of cool is every company has its own different culture. And when you do internships, you get an opportunity to see that, not just read about it. Okay. The other thing you want to think about when you're looking at your internship is what's the location? I was just doing some internship searches, and there is internships worldwide. And so you need to ask yourself, what do you have for transportation, housing? But another question is, where do you want to go? That's a whole nother piece to the puzzle. Some other things you need to think about is what do those hours look like? Could you do a full-time internship, or do you already work somewhere so it can only be part-time hours? You want to have some of that stuff in mind. And then lastly, what learning opportunities do you want? Do you want an internship that just utilizes your current skills, or do you want an internship that pushes you to learn something new in a whole new environment with a whole new skill set? So those are a lot of things to keep in mind, but the more of those you can have ready to go, the easier it is to narrow your search. Okay? Because I think it's going to be interesting as you start to do this search. It's not going to be about can you find it? It's going to be you determining which ones you want. Okay. So as we start to look at some of these early searches, think about, which ones have deadlines, because some of the internships do have deadlines. Like they're looking to hire somebody in April because they're starting in May. Okay. You also want to consider if it's a competitive placement. And the reason that's important is usually those paid positions could have competitive placements, and that might be 2 or 3 interviews before you secure the position. I would also tell you to start early because you don't want to rush your decisions. If we flip back here to all of these pieces we need to think about, you don't want to rush that. There's a lot there. to keep in mind. And the other thing is, if we wait too long, we're really limiting our options. So we want to start early so that we don't have to rush, but we also don't want it to be that we have to make a decision in 2 days. Okay. The other thing is timely outreach illustrates professionalism. If I start my search now during spring break, really illustrates that I'm planning ahead for summer and I'm not that last minute procrastinator when it comes to my job or what they can expect from me as a potential employee. Okay. So think early and be considering lots of different pieces. Okay. Before we start talking about reaching out to companies and our contacts, any questions? Mary, I think we're doing okay, but I don't know if I'm going really fast and people don't have thoughts.
Yep, still no questions. So far,
Okay.
it's looking good.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, as I'm reaching out to my companies and contacts, there's a few things that I want you to think about. Okay, so we have this scale here and it talks about hot and cold. Okay, and it's interesting. The scale in this picture makes it look like cold's up and hot's down, but I would say it's probably the other way around, honestly. But this was the nice graphic I found. But what hot and cold, what I mean by this is there's what we call cold contacts and there's what we call hot contacts. Cold contacts are people that we really don't know. Okay, so these are going to be places that maybe have no internship programs. Okay. Okay, so I see we have a little thought here. No questions, but I do think it's interesting on how many things to keep in mind. Awesome. Thank you. I'm glad you found that interesting. So the thought here is when we look at those internship programs, if somebody has an active program, I would consider them a hot contact because they're going to want to talk to me. Okay, if I contact them and say I'm interested in applying for your internship program, they're going to want to talk to me. So I consider those a hot contact or a warm. Some people refer to them as warm contacts. So if you're a cold contact, internship means they don't really have anything existing and they're going to have to like create a position for you. Doesn't mean that they won't take an intern, but it means they don't have anything developed for you. And really a big difference there would be, so when I would advise for the computer languages, we did an internship program that was developed with Accenture. So they had like a training program in place for their interns while they also had a mentee and actually doing hands-on experience. So because they were an active internship partnership, that was all developed. But if you have no internship program, it doesn't mean that they won't do a good job with you, but it might mean they don't have that stuff ready to go. And it might not be as structured for you. Okay. And there could be delays in placement and things like that. The other thought, if you're looking cold to reach out to a company, is that you're probably going to have to do an inquiry email or what we call a letter of inquiry. Okay. And what a letter of inquiry or an inquiry email is, basically you're reaching out just blind, like a cold call. Hi, my name's Chris. I am just finishing my program at DMAC in social services, and I'm really looking forward to getting some actual hands-on experience before moving to my bachelor's program at UNI. I'm looking to be in a placement that works with early adults with special needs, blah, 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 blah. I totally just made that up. But my thought is, it is very cold. It's not addressed to anybody. It's usually addressed to a hiring committee, human resources, or to whom it may concern. It's a very cold, and you would send probably a couple cold inquiries out because you don't know if anybody's ever going to reach out. Okay. But if you fall under that hot column, you may know the contact. So I might be like, Dear Mary, I'm excited to reach out to you again after running into you at the career fair. I am really interested in your internship. So it's no longer just an inquiry, it's an actual contact. So I know Mary's name. I might even have talked to Mary before. Maybe I knew her from high school, whatever it might be. The other piece is that middle block where you can make references. So you can say, growing up in the Ankeny area, I know that your company makes lots of impacts on the local communities, and I would really like to be part of that. So when you have those warm contacts, It allows you to make some references, and you can make some references when you have cold contacts, but usually they're very much your own opinion, where if it's more that you know them, it just comes off a little more personal. Okay. So when you're reaching out to companies and contacts, really ask yourself, is this a warm contact for me? Is this a cold contact? Try to start with those warm ones. You're going to get more outreach. Okay. But if worse comes to worse, we can always do online searches. And literally, you guys, I just went out there into the good old Google world and I wrote in internships in the Des Moines area. And all of these different pieces came up. So good old Google searches, the Des Moines, I think it was West Des Moines interns, they're calling all interns. Glassdoor, Career Builders, and Indeed, and the U Intern, powered by interns. Those are actual like websites that are basically all for career development, but they do offer internships. LinkedIn is a piece of information out there. It's kind of like Facebook for professionals. So you're going to build a profile, and that profile is going to say pieces of information about you, like here's where I go to school, here's my skill sets, here's what I'm looking to do. And so those people can look you up. And a lot of times you can even link your LinkedIn profile in your resume. Okay. And honestly, this sounds crazy, but there were some hits on Facebook, good old Facebook, for internships. So there is so much out here. But if you decide to do the online search, I want you to know you're going to have to do some digging. Where if we look back at that, reaching out to that company or your contacts, those warm contacts or those people that you actually are targeting, you're going to get a lot more hits, if that's what we want to call them, versus doing online searches. However, the online searches, they're out there because that position actually exists. So keep that in mind as well. Excuse me. Okay. Beyond those online searches, you have a wonderful resource to you, which is using your school and local career services. So in this PowerPoint, I did link up our DMACC career services, but I did take you into there a little bit, but I want us to take a little deeper dive into that. So I'm going to switch over to that website. So give me just a second here. It'll be easier just to go out and come back in. Sorry, guys. Okay, here we go. And so on this, there's actually a link specifically that says jobs and internships. Okay, we're going to talk more about this handshake here and about what that is for you. But I do want you to notice that you can make an appointment to have an assistant help you do some searches. And the piece I think that's really nice about this is they talk about mock interviews. They'll help you with those resumes and cover letters. They'll help you do some general searches. But also part of that is they talk about some jobs within DMACC, and then they even talk more into those different career searches. So they even have the Greater Des Moines services, as well as they have the LinkedIn and the Indeed, Iowa's top workplaces. So all these are right here available for you. Okay. So this was found, if I went right into my DMACC and I went to DMACC, went to Life at DMACC and Career Services, brought me into the main website. And then I just went into Student and Alumni Services. Okay. So that's where all those pieces of information were. We're going to come back to that in just a few moments here. Okay. So coming back to that, the reason I mentioned coming back is that handshake piece, I want to talk more about that before I click into it for you. So what the handshake is it's kind of like a LinkedIn a little bit for college people. So you can join it. There's hundreds of postings specifically for college people, and it's like getting out there and shaking hands. You can share your resume, you can get up-to-date information, and it has everything from local hires to virtual hires, has career fairs, all these interesting pieces. And it's designed specifically for DMACC. And I think I read when I went to the main Handshake website, there's like 1,500 colleges and universities across the United States that use the Handshake connection. So even if you decide to transfer on to Iowa State or you go to Harvard, I don't care, you still would have access to Handshake and it would still allow you to do the same pieces that you did at DMAC. Okay, so we're going to take a look at that here in just a little bit too. After we talk about the idea that you can attend career fairs. So I just did a quick little snapshot here in the spring here at the Ankeny campus or at the Ankeny campus. I'm in Carroll, not here in Ankeny, but you can see that they had some. So it looks like we missed the first couple, but there's one coming up for fire and EMS that's going to be on the 27th. And this is constantly being upgraded. Okay, so you can see there's lots of things out there that are available to you. And so you can see that even this one, it says, click here to register right on Handshake. Okay. So tell you what, before we move on to this one, I do want to go back and I want to show you what that Handshake looks like. So I apologize, I'm doing lots of flipping on you guys, but I want to show you what that looks like. Okay, so if I click into my join my Handshake, okay, Mary, can you see where it says Des Moines Area Community College? Can you guys see that okay?
Yes, community.
Okay, I want to make sure my browser loaded.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Did it.
Okay, so you can see that there's internship picks and they're specific even to certain areas. Okay, so we've got here some that are basically for human resource specialist right here in the Des Moines metro area. Okay, but if you notice, here's one clear in Florida. So first of all, these are just some general ones, but you also can create your own profile. So as you can see over here, I just went in and pretended that I was a liberal arts student. So mine went pretty generic, but it does give me, I can do all these different pieces to it. I can look up the jobs maybe that I saved and you can see I can bookmark some of these. So say like, I really like this idea of this agent, okay? So I can put that in there. I have my documents, so I can have my resume up there. Lots of different pieces to that. They also have it where you can watch some interesting videos, but they have upcoming employer events. And then we even have where we have some contacts with our alumni or hires from our school. So that's one of the things that they do in LinkedIn is that you can connect with people. But one of the really cool things here with this Handshake is it's specific just to DMAC and businesses and alumni specific to DMAC. Okay, so, and you can see over here, if we click on events, see if it loads for me. Here we go. On events, you can see some upcoming things. So they've got some events kind of all over, but here's those career fairs that we have coming up. Okay, there's a career fair. Here's some specific to a summer internship, a viral virtual section for us. So pathways, you can see that they have those different pathways. So my thought is, I want to go back when I look at these and I want you to think about the idea of it's a lot of work. It isn't just you can pick one day and say, oh yeah, I'm gonna decide to do my internship today and get something secured, because it might take a lot of time to do some digging. Okay, so I want to make sure that people kind of understand that it isn't something that just like happens quickly. It's going to take some time. All right. So if we go back to those 9 ways to find the internship, another way is to reach out to your network. Sometimes you guys have connections you didn't even think about. Think about your family. Think about friends, coworkers. Okay. Maybe you have that person that you work with at the Olive Garden who also works part-time at Target. And they said, oh, hey, we're doing some summer internships at Target. And there's a great connection. Even just think about acquaintances that you know, like your neighbor who you really don't know all that well, but you know he does work at Wells Fargo. And so you're wondering if they do any internships. Or maybe you even get referrals where you just say, hey, to your neighbor, I'm really looking for an internship. Do you know anybody who's looking to hire? And he might be like, you know what? Or she, them, they might say, I do know that our church is looking for somebody to do youth programming. There you go. It's an experience. You can learn a lot, you can apply some skills, and you have something to put on that resume. So the big thing is, if you are maybe more of an introverted person, there's easy questions that you can say. Hey, did you know I attend DMAC and I'm looking for a summer internship? Do you have any suggestions for me? Okay. Throw the idea out. They say no, you're not out anything. But I would always make sure to do some of those referrals, because it goes back to that slide where we talked about the cold versus hot contacts. And if you can make these connections, those are warm contacts, those hot calls that can make it easy to make connections. Okay, the other thing is, oops, sorry, didn't advance. Don't forget there's also virtual and remote options. Just kind of looking at some of these, there are literally websites that are just for virtual internships. Okay, there was a piece that says how my online internships opened my mind to new cultures and new careers and things that were out there that we didn't even know exist. Okay, I think it's huge what computers and virtual openings can provide for students, because you might be able to be part of a company that you never even thought. And I'm going to give the example of going back to when I advised for computer languages. I had a student, he was in Ames. He put his just his qualifications out on LinkedIn, put a thing on there that said looking for an internship. And he got somebody who reached out to him, and they were from Memphis, that said, hey, we're creating this new virtual internship. Looks like you have the skills we're looking for. And he now works for this company out of Memphis, okay, from his apartment in Ames, Iowa. So don't necessarily think you have to go that big, but at the same time, don't leave that out of the question. It definitely could be an option for you that you never really thought about. Okay. Now you have to ask yourself though, if you're a person that wants to get up and move around, being at your computer for hours on end might not be a good fit for you. So that goes back to those values and what's a good path for you. Okay. Here's what I would also tell you to do. As you're starting to build, finding your pathway and deciding, looking for an internship or trying to secure something, be able to describe your skills. I can't really say this enough, because when I used to teach some career classes, one of the things that we knew is only about 1 in 3 and sometimes even 1 in 4 people are able to articulate their skills and abilities. Okay. If you can't tell people what you can do, how are they supposed to know what you can do? Right? So do some career things. If you're not good about those things, utilize the career services. That's kind of that next piece down here. Remember, DMAC has a whole entire department that their whole job is to help you with career development. Okay. Maybe you need to do a skills assessment so you can find the words to describe what you're able to do. Okay. The other thought is use that because it can help you build your resume. Use words that actually describe and articulate what you're capable of. Okay. And also with that career services, do some mock interviews. Practice what you're going to say. And the good thing is, like, if you do that mock interview, you can practice with that career services, and they might say to you, you know what, you've got a really great idea here, but here's how I would help explain it. And so many times I would also tell you, and not to get on a whole how to do an interview, but if you can tell a story and that employer or that potential employer can think, oh, wow, I really could see that person in my head doing this job for me, that's what makes you a good hire. But if you just say a few things and be like, yeah, I could do that, and not explain how you can do that or explain how you would do that differently than someone else, that doesn't necessarily set you apart. The other thing is asking for feedback. Have somebody look at your resume, but make it personal to specific jobs. What my resume looks like for my internship at Wells Fargo may be very different than my internship at DMAC. Okay, so make sure your resume fits where you want to do that application at or that inquiry at. The other piece would be, I had asked at the beginning, how many of you think you really need to write a cover letter? Well, it's really interesting because a lot of the applications online and the pieces for hiring online do not require cover letters. They will say you have to have a resume and any supporting documents. Okay. Well, what they're really putting out there is you need to find a way to separate yourself. Well, a cover letter is what does that. And the reason why is it gives you a chance to give them a writing sample of how you communicate. And yes, I know in our AI world, you could have somebody do that for you, but guess what? You can't have them interview for you. So you want to make sure you put something in your cover letter and resume that you can talk about when you're face to face. Okay. So make sure that those resumes and cover letters match those jobs. So when you talk about, hey, I would really like to intern at Wells Fargo, and here's why, because of your reputation, because of my neighbor that speaks so highly of you, whatever it might be, if you could put that in the cover letter, that makes you different than the other cover letter that just came in the mail too. Okay. Rather it's email, snail mail, whatever kind of mail. And then lastly, I would really tell you to ask for feedback from your mentors. Okay. Talk to your professors. You know, hey, I'm really looking for a summer internship. Do you have some suggestions for me? What do you think is the best way to reach out in this industry? And I can't tell you enough, industries are different. If you're somebody that's in the ag industry, the ag people are more, they like to talk face to face. Okay. My husband's a farmer. I can tell you he does not look as closely at emails as probably Mary does. Okay. So you need to know your industry. If you're healthcare, you know, healthcare people have lots of things they do face to face. They might not have a lot of time to read emails. So don't expect really quick turnaround times. So talk to your mentors within those areas to find out like what are time frames, what are the best kinds of things, you know, the example that I gave between a resume and a vignette, you know, what exactly is it this industry is looking for? Okay. So with that, I'm to the point, I'm ready to answer some questions. I want to provide some feedback. Is there other things that I kind of showed really quick that you want to see more of? Okay. So, and I will say thanks for attending today. So you guys out there, now's the time to run some questions. Is there things out there that you're like, hey, will you show us that website again? Will you tell me more about, what do you think? Did I lose my whole room in Boone?
Yeah, it looks like Boone. Yeah, they must, their class period must have ended or something,
Class
huh?
ended. They're like, okay, well, all right. Okay, how about those of you that are here? Any of you have any questions for me or things you would like me to elaborate on? Can I pick on Mary and Thomas? Do you guys have things you're like, hey, tell us more about?
Did you mention, I know this presentation wasn't focused on DMAC's career services, but did you talk about all
Yeah,
of
you know what?
them?
I'd love to hit that again for you. Because yes, we absolutely need to make sure that we put that out there because we have a whole division at DMAC that is about career services. So if you go to the DMAC website and you go to Life at DMAC, there's the page that says career services. And right here it is. And in that career services, it breaks it down into here's the services they provide. Excuse me. They also have some job and internship postings, as well as upcoming career fairs. And then they break it down for students and alumni, potential employers, and then faculty and staff. So they break it down into specific areas. And then if you even go into that, they break it down even more with career exploration, jobs, internships, handouts. So in those handouts gives examples for resumes and preparing for your interview. And then they
Yeah.
also have some surveys.
I was specifically thinking, maybe you did mention this and maybe I was looking at something else, but just like they, you know, other thing they do like the mock interviews for jobs.
Yes.
You already said that, but anyway, just.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you, Mary. That's absolutely great to reiterate that because they do individual appointments if you're just like, I don't even know where to start, as well as, like you said, the different workshops they provide. There's lots of great things there.
You do have a new question in chat,
Oh,
Christina.
fantastic. Thank you. Give me just a second. Thank you, Thomas.
I can read it off or.
Oh, thank you. I lost it. Okay. So would you recommend taking the career quiz if you feel confused on things? I'm a liberal arts major, but I'm thinking you want to specialize in something. Okay. You know what? I feel like the career quiz is really good. And I would even do a couple of those. So that career quiz is a great one. And then I really did like this yourselffirst.com because it takes you through those series. And the reason I also like this is it's a forced answer. And sometimes if you take a class or a quiz that's kind of more of like a Likert scale where you can 1 to 5. Do you like to look at the stars? 1 to 5. Do you like underwater? And if you do too much of that, you always just give it 3s. It doesn't give you real good feedback. So I like this one because it does a really good job of making you force an answer. Does that make sense for you? Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay,
yes, thank you. Yeah, perfect.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I will be happy to email you. Tell you what. I don't know, can we get their, if I click on that, does it give me their email? Nope.
That's a
Okay.
good question. Thomas, do you know? Do we have emails for
You
everybody?
know what? I'm gonna put my email. It let me
Well, you can have them put it in chat. I can look it up later in the registration
well, and
area.
actually if they
or
want to
we can
email
look
me, then
them
I'll
up.
just return to them. That works too.
We can
Yep.
also look them up and just DMAC name and DMAC email.
Yeah, okay. How
I
about
think
some
that
more
makes sense,
questions?
Christina. Just, yeah, if you put your email in there, they can send you an email and you can just reply with the
Okay.
PowerPoint or the suggestion. So that's a good
Yes.
idea.
Yeah, because I do have those linked and that's probably easier for them.
We do have one student who put their email in.
Yep, got it. I'm good at copy and pasting, so that was easy. Yes, I will be happy to send that to you. Okay, what are some other questions or things I can answer for you? Other thoughts? Did that seem overwhelming? Sorry, I'm picking on just the 4 of you that are in here. Did I go too fast for you? Because I know it's a lot of information. And it's hard to take like all that and shove it into, 45 minutes by the time we do the housekeeping and so what are, some thoughts or things that you're like, hey, could you tell me more about? Okay. No questions, but thank you. Fantastic. Okay.
I think I'm going to stop the recording here just
Okay,
for the purposes
fantastic.
of this.